up, true believers? The eternal truth. The eternal truth. The eternal truth. The eternal truth behind our modern mythology.
What is up, true believers? It is Mason here with Comics and Crosses, where we discuss the eternal truths behind our modern mythology. And today is Wednesday, February 16th, new comic book day. Happy new comic book day to everybody out there. I hope that your pull is plentiful and none of your books are delayed. But that was not the case last week. Diamond dropped the ball and hid my indie comics from me somewhere undisclosed, and it was quite a sad day. But of the big two books that I did read, I got to read some good ones. I got to read Joker, which Joker had a big reveal in it, so that was cool. And then also Moon Knight was interesting. Moon Knight has been a really good series, but I felt like this last issue was kind of confusing. Just because it was like a different character and it just felt kind of disorienting following somebody else who's like crazy in a different way than Mark Spector. So, you know, there's that. But it was Valentine's this week. Hopefully your day was full of love and what have you. But now it's a new week, new opportunities, new things. One quick thing is it is a Walking Dead Wednesday. So if you haven't been following, I am a total Walking Dead virgin, noob, inexperienced novice when it comes to The Walking Dead. And I have been reading the series, one book a week. I actually missed last week, so I read issues 5 and 6 this week of The Walking Dead. And whoa, man, it got crazy. I mean, spoiler warnings if you haven't read it, but most of the people I know have, and so I haven't seen the show. I haven't seen anything, and so things get crazy. Zombies show up, people start dying, and crazy stuff happens with Rick's kid. And there's a shocking ending that I did not see coming. Well, I kind of did as we got closer, but this series is good. I see why it's a hit. I mean, I wonder if the show's the same or how different it is. I have no idea. But Walking Dead up to issue 6 is definitely readable thus far. I'll tell you when it becomes no longer enjoyable. But I was kind of blown away. But those Robert Kirkman stories are definitely slow burns. But if you ask me, pick it up to this point. So today we have a special guest with us. This is a friend of mine who I have done some live shows with and some interviews, and she has her own kind of following from different things that she does. We'll talk more about that. But I mean, there's a Simply Amazing podcast all about the Incredible Nightcrawler. There's the Wednesday poll. Is that right? Yeah. And so I wanted to talk more about that because I was realizing I haven't ever talked with her much about it. So anyway, she's a friend of mine and she dropped in to represent the comic book community and share her thoughts and just have a little conversation. So let's welcome to the show Lauren, Friendly Neighborhood Bye.
What's up? Thanks for having me on, Mason.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you coming out to the morning show. I have been talking with some different members of the community lately about different things and just getting, I think getting, like when you're getting into comic books and the comic book community, it's cool to see just how many different people are out there doing different things. I mean, obviously I have my own take on it with Comics and Crosses, but Lauren, what are some of the things that you have kind of found yourself doing and being a part of in the comic book community online?
Yeah, I kind of do too much, I think. So I write for the Wednesday poll. You can see my shirt, which side. I can't do my side. The
Oh,
Wednesday
that's
poll
cool.
list. So I've been there pretty much since they launched their website. So the Wednesday poll list, their main thing is their podcast they do, which is amazing. They review a trade almost every week they can, and they talk other nerdy stuff. They'll talk about action figures, comics, TV, movies. They kind of touch on everything. And then when they launched their website, mid last year ish, they were looking for some people to write and stuff, and I was like, sure, why not? Like, I guess I'll try writing things. Like, maybe people care about my opinions. But
So
it's been good.
was that like, did that opportunity, was that based on just you sharing your opinions on Twitter, or were you actually writing pieces that they saw? Like, how did you become part of that like team? Like, what
I
did they
mean,
base it on?
so Lex and Simon, and if you know how they work, Lex pretty much does more of their social media for the pod. But they were just like, hey, if you want to write stuff on our site, let us know, because they were just starting it. And so I DM'd them, like expecting them to ask me questions and all this. And I was like, yeah, I'd be happy to write. Like, how does this work? Like, how can I get involved? And Lex was just like, oh, you want to write? Here you go. Like, here's the site, here's access. Like, what do you want? I was like, well, look, do you want anything specific? And they're like, if you want to write nerdy stuff, like, just go for it, man. Like, if something's wrong, we'll tell you. But past that, just do what you want. So they're really easygoing, which I think is a good thing, because they don't let just anybody in, obviously. Like, they the people that work with the site, other than me, are wonderful. They're all people that are good at what they do. They're all genuine good people. So it's not like, they're just like, oh, we want like anybody to write just something. But they really give us a lot of creative freedom, which means a lot to me, because other sites, even bigger ones, where you can get more views immediately on your articles and stuff, there's formats you have to follow and stuff. And that's not a bad thing. There are formats that work. There's a reason there are formats, but I really like writing for this one, because I'll say, hey, is it cool if I write this? So like, yeah, go for it, do what you want. And I'm like, cool. I don't think I've been told no yet, which uh I think is just because they're really kind and they trust me to do good stuff, which is nice. So
Yeah. So like,
I don't think I've let them down yet.
even if you're like, I want to do a piece on my best guesses on the type of underwear that Kurt Wagner wears, like they'd be like, okay, we'll see where you go with this. Like, that, you think that'd be on the table?
That's funny, but I think they would be down with it, because it's that ridiculous. Like, they just be like, you know what? If anybody can make it work, Lauren, it's you. I mean, one of the things I've been writing recently are recaps for the episodes of Legends of Tomorrow. And if
Oh,
anybody watches that show here, one, we're now best friends, but two, that show is ridiculous. Like, even if when I do the recaps, I just write what happens and react, and then just keep writing what else happened in the episode. I decided to do recaps instead of reviews, because reviews aren't fun for these episodes. You're just like, okay, it was good or it was bad. But these episodes, all I have to do to make it sound fun to people is just to say what happens. Like, oh, the alien ate J. Edgar Hoover. What? This guy ate who and why? Oh yeah, but then they decide, they're gonna all become serial killers and try to kill each other. But they're not serial killers, guys. And you're like, what? And there's just so much crazy stuff that happens on that show, and they let
yeah.
me write it. Like, there's so many inappropriate, weird sex references and all these weird things. And Lex is so kind. He always is like, these are my favorite recaps to read. So I think they'd lean into the whole Kurt underwear thing. They'd probably be like, that's weird, but I think they'd like it because it's weird.
Well, yeah. Tell Lisa about it, because you're welcome for the next episode of Simply Amazing Fun.
I was gonna say, she's gonna make that blog post the second I tell her. Like, Detective Lisa's gonna get every single picture. She's gonna have evidence, reasons, like motive.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if it's canon yet or not. But that's cool. And that makes me think. Going through the recaps, because I know that you love that show. I've seen you
Mhm.
post about it a ton, and so, but it makes me think, like, in like fandom and nerddom and geekdom, like all the people out there who are loving, like, comic related stuff and superhero stuff, like,
Mhm.
there are some lonesome nerds out there. Like, I could just
Yeah.
imagine, like, if I really loved a cool show and then, like, had nobody to talk about it with, like, like, that
Yeah.
would just, That would just suck. So I see how the recaps are really cool because it's like somebody gets to share that experience with you of like watching this crazy show, and and then probably are people able to comment like on your recaps?
Yeah, and people will. And honestly, what's most fun for me is seeing the people that don't watch the show read them. Like, I have people that don't even watch the show. They'll just read my recaps, or even like on Twitter, because I'll live tweet it sometimes too. Outside the recap, they'll just go through my live tweet and they're like, I have no idea what's happening, but this is a show in of itself, just reading this feed. So yeah, it's just really fun in general. And for me, I realize so the recaps take quite a while because I rewatch the episode and write the recap as I rewatch it. So it can take me like 2 hours to write a recap sometimes, depending.
Wow.
But when I do it, so it can seem kind of hard to do at first because I'm like, oh, I know this is gonna take a while. But once I do it, I immediately don't regret it because it's so fun being able to relive the craziness of the episode. And I've been thinking about, live streaming, like doing live reactions while I watch the episode, because I
Mm,
think that could be even more fun. But I've just had technical difficulty stuff with that. I'm trying to figure out.
mm.
But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, for the lonely nerds out there, like, I think that's the whole point of doing stuff like, the Wednesday poll list and the pod and the side and the recaps, all this craziness. We just want to make sure people aren't alone. And I think that speaks well to how Lex and Simon want to have their brand and stuff, is they just want everybody to feel represented, that's not a, morally problematic human being, like certain things aside, past that. We
Yeah.
want people to feel represented and have a place to be. Like, even if Simon isn't into what I like, or I'm not into what, one of the writers as well, Joe, like, I love Joe. We do weekly roundups together about our favorite comics of the week. Even if we don't like the same things, that's okay. Because somebody else wants to hear about it or will like it as well. And it's important that everybody gets to have a place. So it's been a really nice home to just have fun, be silly, and meet people, because I have the pleasure to have interviewing people for the Wednesday poll list. So I'll post down their YouTube and then usually post an article up. And it's just a great way to, not only communicate with others myself, but to initiate communication between other people in the nerd world.
Yeah, so no serial killer representation. Is that would you call the Wednesday poll list a hate group then? Like, or is it a serial
You
killer
know,
hate group?
I'm sure God, I don't know if this is good or bad, but we really have serial killer representation. Like, I mean, if somebody talked about the book Vinyl, which is a great indie comic, that's serial killer representation.
Okay, okay, good. I was concerned. You're a friend of mine. I hate to have to cancel you or a group that you're associated with, but it
I
makes.
know, I know. I'm surprised every time people see me talk about what happens on a tomorrow episode and they don't cancel me. Like, I'm waiting every day. I'm like, I know how crazy this is and I love it. So I must be like, I need to be stopped.
Speaking of crazy, I saw that like I don't know if you're a Nicolas Cage fan, but there is a movie coming out where Nicolas Cage plays himself, and like
Mm,
what's his name, the Mandalorian, um,
hmm
Pedro Pascal is like playing like the world's biggest like Nicolas Cage fan, and he like brings him to his private
Yeah.
island for him to act out like scenes from his movies or something, and it just looks
Mm,
really like outrageous. And but it's crazy how I feel like we've gotten to this point in like entertainment and like movies and shows and stuff where now it's like we are like we all kind of know there's such a world like with Spider-Man No Way Home. There's like so much we've all seen the Spider-Man movies, and it's like we're getting to like be entertained by our history of entertainment. Like
yeah.
it's crazy. It's like all of this kind of like almost meta like self-aware like weird thing, but so far it's really fun. Like it's like the stuff that you would have sat around and people like us talk in in chat rooms and things like that. It's like happening really in movies and stuff. Um,
Yeah. It's nice to see this stuff becoming, um, not necessarily popular, even though that is the case as well, but it's nice to see it being normalized. Like, people have always liked nerdy stuff. Like, this isn't a new thing. Like, this is a thing where people all of a sudden just started liking nerdy stuff more than 10, 20 years ago. People have always liked it. It's just now people are accepting it and normalizing it and saying, hey, this is actually okay. Like, this is weird, but we're all weird, right? And that's probably my favorite vibe that's going around right now, is that, yeah, we're all weird, but like, who cares? Like, just enjoy your weird. Like, just
Yeah.
have a good time with it. And as long as you're not hurting yourself or somebody else, like, go crazy.
You know what I think is a big part of it is like the Marvel movies are making have made so much money, like
Yeah.
and not only that, but like the film industry has tremendously struggled, and like they say that like nothing can make big money unless it's like a superhero movie now, like a comic book movie,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy. So like I think like yeah, there was always cool nerdy stuff, but like now that it's like making the most money of any like entertainment out there, like I think
Mm-hmm.
now other people's eyes on it, and we're getting like all these different kind of like voices and perspectives into like the world of
Yeah.
comic books and superhero that wasn't there before. And it's kind of it's because yeah, because like things have always been awesome. Like there's always been like dope like female characters and like people of color and stuff like that. Like I love Ripley from Aliens, like way
Mm-hmm.
before it was like we needed representation of this or something like that. Like it's things have been dope from like way back. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm and so it's just cool. It's just cool that there's a lot of new stuff coming out and like stuff that we never thought we'd see, like Batman versus Superman or like you know
Yeah.
Spider Verse stuff, and it's all happening. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, with everything happening at once, I mean, I know people are like, oh, look, it's not a nerdy show or a nerdy pod, like everybody's talking about. But there's a reason for that. Like, all this is happening so all of a sudden, and so much of it's happening that we all want to talk about it. And I think that's actually really cool, is that we all want to talk about it in some way. And it's such an opportunity to create community and bring people together. And, unfortunately, you have people, so many people that will try to segregate and be like, it's this or that. Like, you either love it or hate it, and that's it. There's nothing else. And if
Yeah.
you love it, you're terrible. Or if you hate it, but that's kind of why I like doing so much. Like, I do stuff for the Wednesday poll, and I write reviews for the GWW, which is a bigger site. I do the Simply Amazing podcast you talked about, and we did a live show yesterday, 2 days ago actually, for Valentine's Day. And it was so fun because, like, when we did the live, like, Lisa and I even shared towards the end, we were like, we didn't think anybody watched us. Like, we thought we'd be lucky if we got one person, but we had like at least 15 people coming in and out and stuff, and we got 15 people that were giving stuff away to. Like, all of these people that came and stuck around, they all won something. And we chose to do that because, yeah, that may be a lot on our end, but it's worth it because we said, hey, we want to spread this joy, and
Yeah.
if we can, which we can, we're going to do it. um so just having all these different ways to bring the community together, um it's so fun. And then in March, I have this project I've been teasing coming up.
Yeah.
There's a couple people that know what it is, but not many. Um,
Mystery
but
box.
I'm really, really excited for it because it's something I've been missing and I've been wanting to do. But I wanted to do it at the right time. I didn't want to rush it. I wanted to do it for the right reasons. And it's finally come together. So I think all these other things I do, I love them. I'll continue doing these other outlets, but my project that's coming up in March, like, personally for me, that's going to be my heavy focus. Depending on how it goes, that's really what I want to do.
Okay, I understand that you can't, spill the beans yet. It is, but just tell me if I'm right or wrong. Is it a one woman play, like where you play all the parts about your life?
If I could act without laughing at myself, it would be. But that is why I'm not an actor, is I end up laughing at everything. Like, even on the live Lisa and I did this week for Valentine's Day for our Simply Amazing pod, like, she would say something and then just be like, okay, let's keep going. And then I would try to play along, but then I'd bust up laughing because I can't hold it together.
Uh, have you seen on TikTok this challenge where people have to sing like Lady Gaga's Bad Romance, and there's like four people, and they have to do it one at a time and try not to laugh, and it's always just like struggle, like a brutal like grinding halt trying to get through it without laughing.
That would be really fun to do. And that's kind of like that's what I really want to do is the project I have coming up in March, I mean. What I can tease about is that it's kind of like an all encompassing of everything I want to do. It's for the community, it's focused on the community. Um and it's going to be a lot of involvement and active engagement on y'all's part, anybody that decides to watch it and tune in, be involved. That's the whole point of it. It's not just going to be me recording myself talking, or hey, look, here's this. Like, I want it to be active. I want it to be somewhere where people um feel like, hey, like this is kind of the tie-in that we've been missing, because I love all the other content so many other people do. um but I want something that is actively engaging and welcoming to as many people as possible. And if you just happen to be a nice serial killer, I mean, I don't know. Like, I might just have to learn to be okay with it. I'm not sure.
Serial killers welcome. You heard it here first on the Plastic Morning Show. That's cool. That is very cool. Yes, a lot of good content out there. And your favorite of all that content would be.
In terms of like out of everything, like movies, TV, or like a specific category.
On YouTube, say perhaps any shows of any kind, like say morning shows or.
Oh, well, obviously, it's this one. This is
Oh,
this is what I do for the mornings, and then on Thursday nights I pop over to Lost in Comics, because I wake
oh yeah.
up in the morning with comics and crosses. I cross my dots and I's for the day. I'm ready to go, and then I get lost on Thursday nights. So those are usually, in all honesty, those are the two I do. And then on Sunday nights, I will gather with all those other geeks on Gathering of the Geeks. I think it's called Gathering of the Geeks. I'm sorry, Emma and Chris, please forgive me. I think it's Gathering of the Geeks is wording. I just know we gather. That's what I do every Sunday. I gather.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, that's good. Good to hear. Good to hear. And also, so I wanted to bring up too. So we got Nightcrawler there in the corner of your screen. There's the
Yes.
Simply Amazing podcast, which I have been fortunate to be a guest on twice. I think the second episode hasn't come out yet. But so
It's coming. I think it's next week that one's coming out. You're welcome, everybody. He'll be there next week.
cool, 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 cool. And that was a lot of fun talking with you and your friend Lisa. And so how did that like? So why do you love Nightcrawler so much?
I feel like we have to do like an entire episode on that for the pod. But
That'd be
I
good.
mean, so he wasn't always my favorite X-Man, and I hate saying that because like sometimes I'm like, I want to be a Nightcrawler purist, but I'm not. My first favorite X-Men was, very cliche enough, Logan as Wolverine. He was my favorite when I was younger, but then around the time X-Men Evolution came around, and the X-Men Legends games, and the Marvel Ultimate Alliance, I started getting more drawn to him. And I was like, at first it was like, huh, he's cool. He's blue, he has a tail, and he teleports, and it's really fun to teleport him in this game. I think I like this guy, but I just like him. And then I eventually read black and white reprints of Claremont's Uncanny X-Men run. I read the Dark Phoenix saga, and then like up until like the 170s issues. And I fell in love with him in those issues, because he's the epitome of what the X-Men are all about. He is the epitome of, he's the outsider, and not just because, if people saw his power, they would outcast him, because physically he just exists and people outcast him.
Yeah,
He physically, people can tell he's a mutant and such just on sight. But he, from the start, I mean, even though at the beginning he was written a bit differently than he is now. Even back then, when he was just like, I just want to get away from these people trying to hurt me. Um, he still didn't hurt them. He still didn't, completely rip them to shreds, even though he was more aggressive then. And that's kind of thing, is he sees the best in people even when we wouldn't. And it's one of those qualities that you see in characters like Superman and Supergirl and stuff that people really love. Um, but yeah, I like that he's an outcast, and that, yeah, he gets upset at times, but at the end of the day, he still has faith in people, and both religiously and just spiritually and morally, he has that. So I
yeah,
really like that he stands that, and it's nice to have a little shrine to him in my room, because When there are days where I'm just like everything sucks and people are terrible and the world might as well just end. He's a good reminder to still try, even if it doesn't seem like it's worth it.
Yeah, that's well said, and I really enjoyed. We got for a deeper dive on this. You could check out the Simply Amazing podcast episode where I was on there, and we got to talk about Kurt's faith, him being a Christian, and kind of how that
Yeah,
influences his worldview and perspective. And he's a really cool character, and it's neat to see his faith and how he evolves. And also, right now in X-Men, there's so many interesting scenarios that kind of
yeah,
either can conflict or come in alignment with his Christian faith. And I think of him and like Daredevil, like Matt Murdock, both being
mm,
Catholic characters. But you bring up a good point that Kurt, even though he's kind of has had probably more rejection than even other X-Men or, other characters.
mm,
He has this kind of hope and faith in people, and this kind of optimism or, seeing the best. Whereas Matt Murdock is like, he looks normal. I mean, he's blind, but he's a lawyer. He's living his life, and he kind of is just always got this wet blanket on him, like he's just heavy, heavy, heavy with I think
yeah,
just this weight or sense of responsibility, and I mean his comics are probably they're different, they're grittier, they're very grounded in reality and kind of ugliness of
mm,
crime and stuff like that. But yeah, it's interesting to see two different characters, both possessing faith, both kind of having that kind of background, but then and that can be the difference of personality. I know a lot of people, who may have the same beliefs or backgrounds, and just some of them, they make you feel great whenever you're around them, and some of them, you just feel kind of negative whenever you're around them.
yeah. And I mean, it's how you react to your situation. So, like Kurt, if he would be a completely different person if when he was if people when people threw pitchforks at him and stuff, and he just said, "I'm gonna kill these people. I hate them all." That would be a completely different person, right? But that's not based necessarily on his personality. It's how he chooses to react. So
Mhm.
your choice to react really matters. And so that's what Daredevil does is he chooses to react differently than Kurt would. And that can be part of his personality and stuff. But I think that's the biggest thing that matters here. And that's something Kurt as a character is big on as well that I've seen is that he's like that's one of my favorite things about him. He's very spiritual. He is very Catholic, but he never shoves his faith on people. Like one of my favorite friendships is Kurt and Logan Wolverine because Logan's like everything's terrible. He's worse than Daredevil. He's like I
Right.
have been through all literally everything's terrible. I've died in the worst ways physically and mentally possible. Like literally the world sucks. And somehow, even though Logan is completely justified in how he thinks and he's really been through it all, this little blue elf guy that just thinks people can be better can get to him. Like he can get Logan to still see, hey, by the way, you're right, but also there is still good and there's still a reason to try. And Logan he'll be like, dang, you're right. What? And it's so cool to see that opposition. And it was fun to Daredevil because recently and the Nightcrawler Discord we're in, that Lisa and I are in. And people are welcome to join as well if you'd like. There's links on the Simply Amazing pod and stuff. But somebody in there, I think their username is Seven, but they were talking about how one of their biggest ships is Matt Murdock and Nightcrawler. And I was like, I've never heard that before. Like, tell me more about that. Like, what? So it's really interesting to see how different people will take characters and their faith and how they react and who they are and they have a different perspective on it.
Hmm. Yeah, it is. I mean, and it's nice that it's nice to see that too. It's kind of I feel like sometimes we think about like different groups being represented in entertainment or comics or stories or this or that, but I think you shouldn't have a token person. You should have two, so that you can show not all gay people think the same way, or not all Christian
Right.
people think the same way, or not all black people or whatever. But to let them contrast, because then it's interesting too when those characters interact and you realize, oh wow, like these people fall into the same group maybe per se, but they've taken different paths or they have different outlooks, and that is
Yeah.
interesting. to watch.
Yeah, and that's the thing with representation. I mean, even taking a step further and going, the whole point is that we don't the whole point with representation, or one of the big points, is we want to be normalized so that we don't just fall into these stereotypes for whatever group of people it is, so that we could see that, hey, gay people, or if you're LGBT like I am, I'm bi and all that, like, we're not all the same. Like, yes, there are bi people that cheat, but like, does that mean I will? No, there are this, there is that. Like, we want to see all perspectives. Like, I want the movies where, like, you get a shitty rom-com for like LGBT people. Like, I want that. Even if it's terrible, at least now we have something terrible for us that we see ourselves in, just like everybody else does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, having all those representations, like, I really liked, there was a book that came out last year and finished last year called The Other History of the DC Universe.
Oh
One of
yeah.
the best reads I've ever read. I think it's an absolute must read for everybody. It's a lengthy read, but it's worth it. Because you see so many different perspectives. Like, you have the perspective of Issa Pierce, who is Black Lightning's daughter, who becomes Thunder. I think, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's her. Okay, I just want to make sure I got it right. Didn't mix her up with Lightning. She becomes Thunder. She has a different perspective growing up as a Black woman, superhero, than other Black women superheroes did in that line. And then, like, even Renee Montoya, like, she's also Hispanic, and then she's also gay, so she has a completely different perspective. So it's really cool to see all that, especially as somebody myself who is not Black or Hispanic or Asian or otherwise. It was a really good reminder that, yeah, like, there's so many different perspectives just based on how you grow up and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's helpful because it can change the adventure as long as it's like. But I think we need to see those. You don't really understand somebody's perspective, I think, until it's like brought into a challenge. Like a cool comic story, cool adventure and stuff. So it's like these stories set the scene for those perspectives to really take shape and be real. So it's all about the setting and kind of where you put these characters and how it rubs against or lines up with their own individual perspective. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And oh, I was just gonna say, and that's like, I'm into so many forms of media, like TV, movies, and video games and comics. But that's kind of why I like sticking with comics the best, because comics can do all those things you said in a way that other forms of media can't. And not that movies aren't great and TV shows aren't great and all this stuff. But yeah, the comic medium, it's just something else. There's so much that comics do and can do that I don't think even the average comic consumer we understand. And that's why it's so fun talking to other people and learning about it, both as a fan and as somebody that creates and things like that.
Yeah, getting inner dialogue along with actual dialogue, along with, there can be some narration. It's really cool. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't have to convince you, but it's, comics are just so dynamic in the amount that you can convey through the visuals, through the words and everything. So that's really cool. So if anybody out there hasn't checked out Simply Amazing podcast, I definitely recommend it. And of course, follow Lauren because she's doing all kinds of cool stuff. She's writing reviews and recaps and things like that. So we can't give away what this March surprise is just yet. I understand that, but so without getting into that, is there anything else that you're like looking forward to in the future that you're thinking like, oh, I want to do this, or like, anything you'd like to see happen?
I mean, in terms of what I'm doing, the thing that's starting in March, it's not just a one-time thing, it is something that's starting. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to. I mean, I've been planning that out for, like, and planning it outward for, like, not only through March, but I think I have, like, through April and May planned out possibly already. And things can change, but that's how into it I am. I want everything as planned and ready as possible, because it's going to be something like that. That's going to be the thing where everything else connects to. Like, the Wednesday Pulse stuff will connect to this. Even the GWW might connect to bed. The Simply Amazing will for sure connect to this. Um, So that's kind of the thing that I'm just really looking forward to putting the most time into, because it will open up the door to doing many more things and working with many more people, and bringing more people together, which will be cool. And I think it'll give other people opportunities as well, like not just for me, but I hope that I can give other people opportunities to grow their stuff and get more into nerdy stuff however they want, whether they want to interview people or write reviews or be a video reactor, like whatever. If I can help, let me know. So that's kind of goal in terms of like stuff I'm looking forward to seeing. I mean, nothing beats a Doctor Strange trailer now. Like after I saw that, full disclosure, spoiler, but like when I heard Patrick Stewart's voice and saw the Savage Lands, I was on the floor. Like that's all I care about right now.
Yeah, yeah, it's that looks pretty wild. Like it's gonna, I think, go some crazy places, and some crazy possibilities. Yeah, so I'm excited. Definitely the whole Patrick Stewart thing, what that could possibly mean is pretty sweet. And so we'll see how it all shakes out. Although I have noticed a trend with Marvel like movies where they kind of, you think you're getting something and just so like they switch it on you, and it's kind of disappointing. Like when the Mandarin was supposed to be in Iron Man 3, and then he turned out to be like that character, a different character, and
Yeah.
there've been some
Yeah. I
things.
mean,
Oh, and even WandaVision, like Wanda, I was like, oh shoot, it's gonna get crazy.
oh yeah, when
She's
they
gonna
mess up
tear apart
Quicksilver.
the fabric of reality, and like it's gonna lead to this
Mhm.
multiverse of madness. And it's like, oh no, she's okay, she's at peace, and she went on. There's stuff that's gonna tie in, but like I was like, dang man, like I feel like sometimes they're jerking our
Yeah.
comic chains around, you know?
The hard thing with the TV shows is that it's still very evident to me that they want Marvel, because the films are such blockbusters. They're their big makers, okay? They're the money.
Yeah,
Um all the biggest stuff has to happen there in terms
yeah,
of like things that actually have an impact and matter. So that doesn't surprise me with WandaVision. I think WandaVision was still good. The bigger disappointment was like we got Quicksilver back, and then they're like, actually, no, it's this chump, and you're like, what? Why would you do that? But
yeah,
that said, with the Patrick Stewart thing, um, there's a reason they used his voice only and didn't show his face, because they knew just using his voice was enough to make us lose our minds. Imagine
yeah,
if we saw him and heard his voice. And they know how important it is to get the X-Men right, I think. And that doesn't mean they'll do it right, but I think they understand the impact. So I do think that's Patrick Stewart. I for sure I do think that will be Professor X. What version of Professor X? I don't know. That could be where they get us, right? Because
yeah. I mean,
he originally died in Logan, and then apparently Patrick Stewart refused to come back after Kevin Feige tried to get him in the past, because he wanted that to end. He wanted that ending to carry over and stick. But if they got him back for this one, it better be something good. If Patrick Stewart said, "Okay, worth breaking that ending for," so
yeah, but I mean, he died in X-Men: The Last Stand too. So, or he didn't, his consciousness didn't, I guess. But
that movie didn't happen. I forget it. Never happened. Wasn't a thing. X2 was the last one. It was not a trilogy.
I mean, I would love it if that were true. But like with all this like multiverse and craziness of movies coming back, like now it's kind of like all those bad movies did happen, but we're gonna make it, like we're gonna redeem it. It's kind of like the attitude that they have right now. And what would be
Yeah.
crazy is
I
if,
mean,
I was gonna
mm,
say, like, what would be crazy is if Patrick Stewart is not even Charles Xavier, but he's like an alternate version of Reed Richards, and it's just like the Council of Richards, like they're like controlling like
hmm.
behind the scenes the universe stuff. But we'll see.
I would hate that. He has to be Xavier. If he's not
But
Xavier, like
that's what I'm
pitchforks are
saying.
coming out for me.
That's the kind of stuff
But
they're doing, though.
I do think it's Xavier. My question more is which Xavier and what Xavier, and how is he here and how long will he be here? Because it also makes me think, like, if they got Patrick Stewart back, who else did they get back? Who else? Like, it's interesting to me. I haven't, like, out of all the people freaking out about this trailer and trying to guess who's what, like, who is that? Is that Nova or Maria Rambeau or Captain Marvel or whoever? I see all that, which is cool, and I like talking about that, but like nobody's asking like who else did they bring back? What actors are also coming in? Like, because it would be really cool to see like the original Mr. Fantastic. I can't remember who the actor was that played him, but that actor is fantastic. He was not an issue in that film in the first two.
Yeah.
I would love to see him come back and be Reed. I would be frickin' thrilled because he was Reed incarnate, in my opinion.
Or Chris Evans as the Human Torch.
That would be
That'd
hysterical.
be
And
weird.
honestly, I think Chris Evans would do it. He would do it, but like, I don't think we'll see all the. I don't think we'll see all the X-Men or all the Fantastic Four this film. That's not the purpose. The purpose is
No.
this will create a gateway for them to get their films.
And this
So
is like
I'm just excited.
multiversal Illuminati, so it'd be Iron Man who's dead. Our Iron Man is dead. Reed, so maybe I heard some talk about Tom Cruise being like a surprise Iron Man or something. Some rumors.
Yeah, I kind of hope that they let Iron Man stay dead like completely all around, and they replace him with some other Marvel character to be an Illuminati. Like I have no issue with that. Like we don't need Tony back. He can go away. Like I don't need any version of him. None.
I wish they would. I wish they would let the Black Panther character go on. It was kind of
T'Challa.
yeah. I understand it's a hard kind of thing to weigh, but at the same time, it's like, man, he did such a great job, like with that character that I don't know that it's
Yeah.
like now fans want to see him do more, go on more adventures. Understandably, it'd be a different guy, but it's anyway. That's my thoughts. I just would love to see
Yeah. No,
T'Challa.
I hear you. Yeah, I was one of the people that at first was like, no, you can't recast him. He was too perfect. But now, like after listening to other people and have them talk about representation and say, hey, we can still recast his character and still honor what Chadwick did, but we also don't want the character T'Challa to die with him. There can still be a very great actor that can play him again. And after I listened to other people, I was like, you know what? That's fair. Like this isn't going to ruin his Chadwick's legacy or anything. But
No,
there's if you can find somebody that can still play T'Challa well, they may not be the same as Chadwick. They won't be, and that's okay. But as long as they still play him well, let his legacy continue. T'Challa's a character so important to so many other people, and I had to hear that and go, you know what? That's a good point.
yeah, totally. Cool. Well, Lauren, I really appreciate you stopping by the show and just talking some stuff with me, illuminating us more on the projects that you're involved in, which are super cool. I
Yeah.
mean, you do it all. You write, you do podcasts, you do shows, and sounds like now you're going to be starting a one-woman play. It's like all the things, all the things. It blows me away.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I mean, I thought about doing a one-woman TV show, but I don't have the budget. I just don't have the budget. So when you need a lower budget, you go to theater. That's a joke. I love theater. Sorry guys, I had to.
Yeah, yeah.
But you go to the theater. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'll have a trailer with the actual date coming out, but I will say here, you guys heard it first on here. It will be one of the first 2 weeks of March. You're welcome. Nobody else knows that, but now you guys
Oh,
do.
snap. Exclusive. Comics and Crosses exclusive. Yeah, cool. Well, we're looking forward to it. Looking forward to the big reveal on what comes next for you. But yeah, thank you for being a cool member of the community and being a friend. And we'll have to have you back again in the future to talk about your project once it's officially out there in the world. But yeah,
Yeah, any time. Thanks for having me on, and you never know, you might become a part of my project. So, maybe Mason's a good actor, guys. Maybe he knows everything right now.
yeah, maybe I can play the part of young Lauren.
I don't know if you'd want to play that. I was a demon child apparently. So if you want to play a demon, go for it.
I'm a method actor, so we'll see. Yeah, maybe it can happen. Yeah, and so in the description of the video, if you're new to Lauren, you're not following her already, I have her handle and her info right there in the Simply Amazing podcast, so you can check it out. The Wednesday poll. So yeah, give these things a see. If they're new to your world, include them. And yeah, for until next time, guys, have a great rest of the week, and I hope that you enjoy reading your books. All right, peace out, guys. Thank you.